Yo, guys, welcome back to another commentary video. You got me on the left playing one of my favorite decks of all time, Swordsoul, and my buddy Gage on the right playing the good old Snake Eye Fire King deck. That deck is absolutely insane, man. I mean, it just gets better post Photon Hypernova. We already have it post Maze. In this video, Maze hasn't fully dropped. I think it just came out and Gage has his bonfires on pre-order. So I'll get you guys some content with post Maze decks in probably about a week, maybe two. And then right around then Phantom Nightmare will drop, so that'll be cool. Gage has a pretty good setup. He normal summons Ponix, he activates his Sanctuary, activating the Fire King Island. He activates Island effect, so I Ash it. That's really like the one card you want to hit, or at least Ash on their turn. All their cards trigger on destruction, and Fire King Island is one of the only cards that's gonna destroy on their first turn. But going into my turn, I special summon Vishuddha, going into a monk, getting my normal non-effect monster on field. That's what I'm aiming for. And then going into a normal summoning a Taya, banishing Vishuddha to get a token. That, I mean, if you guys know about Swordsoul, if you have to normal summon your Taya on your turn 1, then you're probably pretty desperate. I mean, your hand probably isn't too great. So, going into a Baxia line right here, shuffling back the Fire King Island and the Link Karibo. I probably could have made an argument to shuffle back the Sanctuary, but I think it was just better to shuffle both of those back instead. And then I'm dumping the Moye off of the Taya. So right here, when you're checking for hand traps, I've already checked for, well, I thought I already checked for Veiler and Imperm, because realistically, if you see the Swordsoul player normal summoning their Taya, I would probably, you know, Imperm or Veiler that.
So if it's summoned from the graveyard or from the hand, it would go unsummoned, you get that effect.
But Gage doesn't do that, so he doesn't even Veiler my Baxia either, which is just weird. I mean, I would 100% assume that they just don't have Veiler at that point, but I guess he held it all the way for the Moye. So yeah, you know, it's an awkward place to Veiler, but hey, it worked out for him. So right here, I'm going to tribute it off, or link off the Moye and the Baxia. What I'm looking for here, I already have Blackout in hand, so I want to get the most value out of this Blackout. And the way I'm going to do that is going into a Chaofeng line. So I'm going into a Shaman, and Shaman discards a card to summon any worm back from the grave. The only restriction is that you can't activate special summoned monsters, well, monsters special summoned from the extra deck. You can't activate their effects unless they're 10-year monsters for the rest of the turn. Since I'm summoning back Baxia from the grave, I can activate its effect, summoning back the Veiler, popping the Shaman, and going into a Chaofeng line. Neither of Baxia's effects are once per turn, so this is a legal play. And it definitely works out. Because, so when Chaofeng gets destroyed by, it's either by card effect or just in general, it searches a tuner. And in the Swordsoul deck, your options are Veiler, Ash, and Ecclesia. So Ecclesia would be the follow-up, Ash would be to prevent the opponent from playing, and then Veiler is just if you already have probably Ash Blossom, right? So he knows I have a Blackout set, he knows that Chaofeng is on board. He can't activate any light effects, but it doesn't really matter because he's playing a fire deck. So he normal summons the Ash, gets the Ponix. Right here, I'm gonna pop the Ash in the Sanctuary and my Chaofeng because I'm scared of him going into a Flame Bridge. But I think after this match, we both discussed that it doesn't really matter if he goes into a Flame Bridge, and I probably would have preferred him going into it. And he ashes my Chaofeng anyways, so I can't even get the tuner. And I have one card in hand, and that is just not the position that I want to be in. He gets his Sanctuary, he gets his Fire King Island, and I mean, I might as well just scoop it up right here, because there's not a whole lot you can really do from this position. Goes into a Link Karibo, activates Fire King Island, popping the Arvada in his hand, and adding a Grunix. So Arvada and Grunix are going to trigger, both summoning monsters, and then Grunix effect on field is going to trigger, sending the Kieran. That's going to summon a card from grave, probably going to be the Arvada, and it can pop a card on field, but I think he's going to opt not to do that. Passes over to me, and I just pass, or scoop it up. We're going to go to game 2. There's not a whole lot I really could have done there. My hand was pretty bad, but, you know, got to make the most out of the situation. So I'm going first this turn for this game. I'm going to activate the Pot of Desires. I don't think he has an Ash for it, so I'm going to get a good draw 2 right here. Getting a Shuna and a Trap. That's either going to be a Blackout or an Impermanence. I think it looked like a Blackout, which I don't mind hard drawing Blackout on the first turn because that just means my Shishao is going to search a Longyan. Special summoning the Ashuna. And I have a 10 Yi line right here, so if you don't know what the 10 Yi line is, it's Ashuna plus any of the other 10 Yis, except the water level 4. So you want to draw either the level 1 or level 7. But I'm going to have to normal summon, maybe I don't have a 10 Yi line right here. I must not have a 10 Yi line because I just normal summon my Taya again. So summoning Vaxia, going into, or sending the Moye. I'm going to pop the Monk, summon the Moye, get a token. Looking for a Shishao line right here. So since I already have my Blackout, I'm going to go Chainlink 1 Moye, Chainlink 2 Shishao, because realistically, the only thing that I want to search right here is a Longyan. And I want to get that out of the deck so that I can search so that I can draw into a possible non-engine. But I drew into the Emergence, and Emergence allows me to search any worm if I control a Synchro monster, so I'm going to search the Ashuna. Now, as I've been playing right here, I've been checking for just about every hand trap. He hasn't nibbed me, or he hasn't Veilered me, he hasn't Impermed me or Ashed me, so I assume he's not going to have any of those. The only thing that, you know, he possibly could have is a nib, and if he nibs me, I would assume for it to go right here because I either have a Xiaofeng line, and that completely shuts it down. So I'm going to get a little bit greedy right here, and I'm going to summon the Sovereign first, because once I summon the Xiaofeng, then I can draw an extra card. Yeah, and I mean, you guys can hear me talking about it right in the match. I'm absolutely sickened right now because he just waited this far for me to, or for him to nib me. Absolutely sick. And I tell him it too. I'm like, yo, that was actually terrible. Like, why would you wait that far? Because I literally could have just went into a Shishao or a Xiaofeng, and his response was that it didn't matter. So that tells me that he literally has an Imperm in the hand. I'm like, okay, great. So we have 4 cards and then Imperm. Fortunately, in my hand, I have an Ash and a Bell for defense. But we're going to see him activate Prosperity right here. He's going to banish 6, reveal the top 6. Wanted Sanctuary, Barong, Skyburner, Fire King Island, and another Wanted right here. Gonna see him pick up the Wanted, which I think is pretty interesting because I think that, to me, that means that he doesn't have a fire monster in hand, because if he did, he'd probably just go for the island, because Wanted does enough right here. It's gonna get him to his engine, but he could also do the same by just picking up the Fire King Island. So, but he gets the dead card out of his hand with the Bellstar, and then sets another Wanted. So that's an obvious tell that he has the original Sinful Spoils in hand. He's asking what he knows in my hand, so I reveal 2 cards. He's gonna activate original, attributing the Bellstar, I'm gonna ash it. It's a good place to ash, honestly, because he can't draw. He can't draw for this turn, so that the wanted engrave isn't going to do anything. He's gonna set one card. I obviously know it's an imperm because of the comment he made earlier, and switches nib to defense. Now I'm adding up the attack of the token, and I'm looking at all my synchros, the ones that were on board that have attack. Whenever he nibbed, and it's an exactly 8,000 token, and that nib has a 600 defense. I have an Ashuna in hand that I can special summon, and it has well over 600 defense. My Cosmic is his technically unknown back row, but I know it's an imperm. Yeah, right here I'm actually just laughing with him. I'm like, yo, there's no way I just killed you with your own token. Gage is trolling me, guys, I swear. But going into a game 3, he's gonna go first. We're gonna watch him stack his deck really quick, and then just shuffle it all together like nothing ever happened. Finishing up side deck, and then hopping right into this game 3. Got some excessive hand shuffling coming from the player on the left. Alrighty, D-Bellstar coming down. I'm gonna imperm that. He's gonna set one card and just pass turn. He's got 2 cards in hand. Anti-spell. I look at my hand and I literally have 5 monsters in hand, and I tell him that. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna be sick if you looked at my hand right now, but I have 5 monsters. So we're just gonna dive right into it, getting into an Ashuna, going into a monk play. Pretty standard stuff right here. And then going for an Ashuna. Uradhara, summoning that, and then Ashuna, summoning a Tenyi from the deck. Summoning the Vishuddha. This is going into a Baxia line. It's going to shuffle both of his cards on field. And what I'm looking to do here is establish a Chaofeng, because he obviously didn't open up very playable. So I'm assuming that the other 2 cards in his hand are going to be non-engine, whether it be Ash, Nib, Imperm, Valor. Doesn't really matter to me. I mean, you can pretty much rule out Imperm because he didn't set it. But I'm just making sure that I play around every hand trap because I don't want to get sacked here like I did in that game 2. Fortunately, it went in my favor, but the more hand traps you can play around safely without compromising your plays, the better, right? So going into a Long Yan, sending the Ashuna. Right here, going directly into a Sinful Sovereign. That card has a super long name, but after that, going into a Shishao, I'm going to go Chainlink 1, Moye, Chainlink 2, Sinful Sovereign, Chainlink 3, Shishao. The reason I do that is the same as, in game 1 or 2, whatever. I think it was game 2. The only thing I want to search out is Blackout because I already used Long Yan, so not too worried about anything else. And then I want to get a Pot of Greed play, drawing into non-engine. I reveal the rest of my hand, and that is it for that game, guys. I absolutely love the Swordsoul deck. I think there's a lot of good technical play and a lot of good reading your opponent that players could learn from playing a deck like it. So if you guys ever get a chance, it's a super cheap deck. Feel free to pick it up and just test it out a little bit. But as always, guys, I appreciate you for sticking till the end. Let me know if there's any feedback you want to give me. Leave it in the comments below. I always get back to your comments. So other than that, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.